Digital amplification and narrative control. You don't just consume stories. Stories rewire you. There was a time when your country shaped you through schools, family, and institutions. Now it shapes you through a screen. You wake up and check your phone before you check your thoughts. You scroll before you stabilize. You absorb before you question. And you believe you are choosing what you see. You are not. You are being selected. Media is no longer just information. It is emotional engineering. And digital ecosystems are the most powerful imprint machines in modern history. The mechanism: algorithms as psychological architects. The internet promised democratized information. Instead, it delivered curated realities. In the mid-2020s, global media studies, including Reuters' digital news reports, repeatedly showed growing polarization in countries like the United States and United Kingdom. Algorithms amplify outrage. Emotional content spreads faster than nuance. Engagement metrics reward intensity. Meanwhile, other systems like China's emphasize centralized narrative control, limiting dissenting information while promoting national cohesion. Different digital models. Same result. Narrative shapes nervous system. When the stories around you are repetitive, emotionally charged, and socially reinforced, they stop feeling like narratives. They start feeling like truth. Your brain is predictive. It updates beliefs based on repeated exposure. If your feed consistently shows instability, you internalize instability. If your feed consistently shows national pride and optimism, you internalize confidence. Information architecture becomes emotional architecture. China: narrative control and unified storylines. In China, digital ecosystems operate within a framework of state oversight and censorship. Certain narratives are amplified. Others are filtered. Criticism is constrained. National progress stories are highlighted. This creates a relatively unified public storyline. The benefits are obvious: cohesion, reduced visible polarization, lower public fragmentation of narrative. When a population consumes similar messages, collective identity stabilizes. The nervous system in such environments often experiences predictability. There is less informational chaos. But narrative control carries trade-offs. Optimism bias may increase. Dissenting perspectives may remain underdeveloped. Information diversity shrinks. When complexity is filtered, cognitive flexibility can narrow. Still, for many citizens, the system feels stable. Because chaos is minimized, the question is not whether narrative control exists. It is how it shapes you. The United States: algorithmic polarization. In contrast, the United States operates in a largely open digital ecosystem. Information flows freely, but algorithms are not neutral. They optimize for engagement. And engagement often means outrage. Polarizing content travels further than moderate analysis. The result? Echo chambers. You see what confirms your worldview. Your neighbor sees something entirely different. Shared reality fragments. Research in the 2020s repeatedly demonstrated that Americans increasingly consume news aligned with pre-existing beliefs. Algorithms amplify emotional triggers. Anger increases engagement. Fear increases clicks. Moral outrage increases sharing. The nervous system, repeatedly exposed to emotionally charged content, remains activated. Chronic activation produces anxiety. Polarization becomes not just political, but physiological. When every issue feels existential, nuance disappears. Trust declines, conversation deteriorates, and you begin to believe the other side is irrational or dangerous. Because your feed tells you so. The United Kingdom: Brexit and media fragmentation. The Brexit referendum highlighted how media ecosystems influence collective perception. Competing narratives flooded public discourse. Claims, counterclaims, misinformation. Traditional media authority weakened. Alternative digital voices strengthened. Trust in institutions fractured further. The UK already carried historical skepticism toward elites. Digital amplification intensified it. When media sources conflict constantly, cognitive fatigue increases. People retreat to sources that align with emotional comfort. Fragmentation accelerates. The nervous system in such environments oscillates between distrust and overload. Too many narratives. Too little clarity, cynicism grows. When truth feels unstable, withdrawal becomes appealing. Korea: comparison culture on steroids. South Korea offers another variation of digital imprint. highly connected, highly online, highly status conscious. Social media intensifies comparison. Appearance, achievement, lifestyle, all publicly displayed. Meritocratic pressure, already high, becomes visible in real time. Success is curated. Failure is hidden. The result? Status anxiety amplified. Body image concerns heightened. Perfectionism reinforced. Online culture does not create competitive identity. It magnifies it. The nervous system, already trained to compare, now receives continuous input. You are not just competing in your class. You are competing globally. And the comparison never sleeps. Cohesion versus chaos. The digital trade-off. Narrative control systems produce cohesion. Stability. Reduced overt polarization. But risk. Limited perspective. Reduced dissent. Over-reliance on centralized authority. Open algorithmic systems produce information diversity. Exposure to multiple viewpoints. Democratic discourse potential. But risk. Polarization. Misinformation. Emotional escalation. There is no perfect model, only trade-offs. But every model imprints you. Cognitive bias and confirmation loops. Your brain favors confirmation. It prefers consistency. When algorithms deliver confirming content, your beliefs harden. This is not moral failure. It is cognitive efficiency. Repeated exposure increases perceived truth, a phenomenon known as the illusory truth effect. If you hear something often enough, it feels accurate. Digital repetition accelerates belief formation. Your worldview becomes narrower without your awareness. And because your feed feels personal, you assume it reflects reality. It does not. It reflects optimization, mental health implications. Continuous exposure to polarized or competitive digital environments increases anxiety and depressive symptoms. Doom scrolling activates threat pathways. Comparison scrolling activates inadequacy pathways. Even in controlled narrative systems, exposure to curated success stories can distort perception. Mental health is not only personal, it is informational. When your daily intake is emotionally extreme, your baseline shifts. Calm feels abnormal. Outrage feels normal. This is Imprint. Worldview hardening. Digital ecosystems reduce friction between belief and reinforcement. In the past, you encountered disagreement face-to-face. Now you curate your informational environment. Disagreement becomes optional. As friction decreases, ideological certainty increases. Certainty feels stabilizing, but it reduces complexity tolerance. Worldview hardening makes dialogue difficult, because alternative narratives feel threatening, not informative. The illusion of autonomy. You believe you choose what you watch. The platforms choose what they show. Engagement metrics determine visibility. Visibility determines belief formation. Belief formation influences identity. Identity influences voting, relationships, career decisions. The chain is subtle, but powerful. Autonomy without awareness is illusion. Media consumption audit. For 1 week, track which news sources you consume, which social platforms you use, emotional tone of content, anger, fear, pride, humor, how you feel after 20 minutes of scrolling, whether opposing perspectives appear in your feed. At the end of the week, ask, is my informational environment balanced or emotionally skewed? What themes dominate? Do I feel calmer or more reactive? Would someone in another country see a different reality entirely? Because they likely would. The provocative truth. You may think your opinions are independent. They may be algorithmically reinforced. You may think your anxiety is personal. It may be informational overload. You may think your pride is organic. It may be narrative amplification. You may think polarization is inevitable. It may be optimized. Digital ecosystems do not just inform, they shape. And if you never audit your intake, you become predictable. Predictability is profitable. Reclaiming narrative agency. This chapter is not anti-technology. Digital tools connect, educate, mobilize. But sovereignty requires awareness. Diversify sources. Seek opposing perspectives intentionally. Limit exposure to emotionally extreme content. Pause before sharing outrage. Remember, if a piece of content makes you furious instantly, it was likely engineered to slow down. The nervous system stabilizes with friction. Without friction, imprint deepens. Closing reflection. Ask yourself, if I were born in a different country with a different digital ecosystem, would I believe what I believe now? Would my fears shift? Would my political stance soften or harden? Would my sense of national pride differ? Digital amplification accelerates Imprint, but awareness disrupts it. In the next chapter, we turn to innovation versus tradition, because beyond fear, scarcity, authority, and digital narratives, there is another axis shaping your mind. How your culture balances disruption and preservation, and whether you were trained to break things or protect them. But first, remember this: your screen is not neutral. It is architectural. And if you never examine the blueprint, you will live inside it unquestioningly. Awareness is the first crack in the algorithm, and cracks are where light enters.